Hello and welcome back to Beauty Bee and to a 2 looks 1 palette using the Profusion Emeralds palette. I bought this last week at Walmart. It was either $4.99 or $5. You know, it was a very pricey palette. So if you've seen one of these videos before, you probably know how this is gonna go. I have a more vibrant, colorful look that I filmed yesterday that will be in the first half of this video. And then in the second half of this video, I'll show you the look that I'm wearing today, which is the slightly more neutral of the two. And then finally, we'll go through my thoughts and not quite first impressions of the palette. I've used it, I would say 4 times now, and I've gotten 3 complete looks out of it. So I've started to form some opinions. I hope you enjoy. Keep on watching. I think that today I'm going to try to match my shirt to some extent and go in with this shade Meadow as well as Harlequin, and probably use Russet in my transition area. And I think that's actually what I'm gonna start setting up this look with, is some Russet on this crease brush, just setting that area up. I've only used this palette twice so far, but I've been really, really impressed by it. I wasn't intending on purchasing this. I've kind of looked at it a few times online, and I've seen Teresa is Dead, and I want to say a couple of other YouTubers. I want to say maybe Emily Noel. I don't remember if she has this exact one, but I know that she has raved about the Profusion palettes in the past. But then I ran into this at Walmart when I was there not looking for makeup, but stressed out. So I went through the makeup section and I saw this and it was like, it just needed to come home with me. It's so much prettier in person than I think it looks on camera. But yeah, it needed to come home with me. It's just so stinking pretty. Okay, before we get too off track, I'm going to start with Meadow. Yes, Meadow, and I'm going to put that in my outer corner. I mean, these shades are so pigmented. But unlike a lot of cheaper shadows that are really pigmented, they don't get super patchy as you blend them out. I mean, they are not the smoothest formula in existence, but they're very workable. I'm really pleasantly surprised by this. Okay, so that was quick and easy. Now I'm going to go in with Harlequin. I'm going to apply it with just a shader brush to start with so that you can see what the pigment looks like, and then I at least intend to switch to a wet brush and use it that way to build up the pigment a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, that is there. I can definitely see it. I actually don't know how well it's translating on camera based on what I see in the viewfinder. It's there, but it's not super impactful the way I want it to be. So we're going to start with that, and then I'm going to wet my brush. So let's get the spray out. My mirror got a little bit of spray too that time. Oh, there's the green. There's that lime green that I was looking for. And can you see how bold that color is? I love this. I'm gonna put that same lime green in the inner corner. And I think that's the upper lid done. I'm going to use this little detail brush for my lower lash line. I think I'm going to go in with Meadow again, which is that teal shade that I've got in the outer corner. I'm just gonna line under my lashes real quick. I'm not going to smudge that out because I really do want the bold pop, and also I know that smudging out a teal on my lower lash line is going to look a lot like a dark circle very, very quickly if I mess up at all. And the way my morning has been going so far, I would mess up. But we're not going to mess with that today. And I think that's the eye look done. I am going to add some mascara, which I will just fast forward through, and then I will figure out the cheeks. So 1 second. Okay, so I've put some mascara on both my top and my bottom lashes, and now we are ready to go in with this little face palette that I've put together. This is Laguna from NARS, Orgasm from NARS, an It Cosmetics setting powder. This is the shade that I use every day to set down my eye primer, and I think you can tell I've got maybe 3 or 4 days left with this, which is exciting because I'm trying to pan it this year. And then I have a Wet n Wild eyeshadow that I've been using as a really subtle cheek highlight. So I guess let's start with, well, let's start by finding a brush that'll work. That's always a good first step. We're going to start with Laguna. I'm just going to get this on this powder brush. I'm going to sort of contour, put a little under my cheekbone, a little under the jaw, and a little along my hairline. I kind of went in with the powder this morning because I don't know exactly what the combination of things was that my skin didn't like, but it was like my moisturizer was just not sinking in entirely this morning, so I needed to set it down a little bit so I didn't feel just sticky. Now we're going to go in with Orgasm on blush brush. Just hit the cheeks. Switch to my little highlighter brush, which is right here. I'm going to go into that Wet n Wild shade. This is from the Silent Treatments palette, I believe. I'm like 90% sure that's what it's from. If not, I've been really miscounting my Pandas eyeshadows, not my Pandas eyeshadows, my Project 100 uses. So we're gonna really hope it's from that palette. Okay. Now for the other side. I find that this shade is just a little bit too dark to be a really good brow bone highlight by itself. But I feel like if I go on the cheekbone and then up on the temple and go above the brow with it a little bit as well, it looks a little bit more pulled together and it looks a little bit more natural overall. At least that's my take on things. And then as the finishing touch, I'm going to go in with the NARS Laguna Afterglow Lip Balm. I just want a little bit of brown to my lips and a little bit of shine. This isn't adding a whole lot of color. I want my shirt and then my eyeshadow to be most of the color in this look. And with that, I'm done. So I'll see you tomorrow for the more neutral look. Bye. Hey, day 2. I think today I'm going to start out with Juniper, and I'm going to put that along my upper lash line on this angled liner brush. I don't care about getting that super even, but I do want it to be pretty dark because I'm going to blend over it with some of the golds to get this really soft liner. And the lighting is either really good or really bad in this video. I can't quite tell based on what I'm seeing in the viewfinder. So we will we'll get through this. Or I'll get through it and you'll X out of the video, you know. Both very real possibilities. So that is on. Now I think I'm going to move to Gilded. This is this light greenish gold. I'm just gonna take that on my finger to start with, I think. Oh, that's pretty. Put that across maybe 2/3 of my lid from inner corner out. Okay, and now I think I'm going to go in with Radioactive, which is more of a bronze. This one has a weird texture to it. I feel like I'm not getting very much on my finger. And I'm getting none on the eye. Let's try a brush instead. We're gonna start out with just a dry brush. This is just a shader brush. And that's not working either. So I've got my setting spray. We're gonna give this another go. Otherwise, we might just need to switch tracks and use a different shade. I wonder if it just is a shade that immediately hard panned, because I haven't used this, but I have swatched it, and I didn't have any problem picking up color then. Focus on the edges. Yeah, I'm still not getting anything. I'm scraping into that product. I mean, there's something on the lid, but it's not impressive at all. So instead, I think I'm going to try Burst, which is this yellowy gold. Let's see if that'll work on a finger. Yeah, these two seem to be the same formula. And if I recall correctly, Harlequin was also very soft and easy to use. I've used that a couple times too. I don't know why this shade is being so different. Like, I feel like a bronze is not exactly the hardest shade to get right. Like, I wouldn't be as surprised if, you know, Fern was really poorly performing, which is this bright green. But I feel like bronze is a really common color and one that a lot of brands that don't have good formulas can get right. Very strange. And now I think just to tie everything together and to stop this from looking like too much of a yellow look, I'm going to go into some more of Juniper, which was that dark, I want to call this a fern green, though it's not actually the shade called Fern. I'm going to take that on this little crease brush. This is the detailed crease brush from e.l.f. I'm just going to stick it in the very deepest part of my crease. I'm not even looking for a lot of color from this. I'm just looking for it to bring out the green in Gilded in particular. Okay, just a tiny bit more. I'm kicking up a lot of powder in Juniper. which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I would be upset if it was a really pricey palette, but you know, kicking up a little bit of powder in a $5 palette with pretty big shades, not the biggest deal in the world. And I think I'm going to leave my lower lash line bare today because I do want this to be a little bit more understated. So I'm going to do some mascara and come back to finish the rest of my face. Now, in contrast to yesterday's look, I think I'm going to go a little bit peachier on the face. So I'm going to start out with my e.l.f. Primer Infused Blush. This is in the shade Always Peachy. I'm just going to get a little bit of that on an angled blush brush. I mean, a little. I tapped off the excess, and then I'm going to put it on my cheeks. I think it's a color issue for me. This color does not like to blend into my skin tone. It's not a bad formula blush. It looks very, very obvious on me, even with a really light application. So for the next product, I'm going to go in with this much larger blush brush and into my Color Icon Wet n Wild blush. This is in Rosé Champagne. I don't know why I needed to introduce it by its full title, but I'm going to use that to blend over the peach and blend out the peach, and I'm taking that up quite a bit towards my temple. Okay, so that is good. My blush is glowy enough that I don't feel any real need for highlights, and I don't really feel like putting on bronzer today. I think the look might benefit from it, but I don't feel like it. So next I'm going to go in with this lip gloss. This is from NARS. This is new, but I've been using it like every day since I got it because it's beautiful. I love this. It's such a pretty natural color. I feel like I should say what the shade is. This is Primal Instinct. I'm just going in on that. It's not super sticky, so I feel like I can put on quite a bit of gloss. And with that, I think that I am done. So, some quick thoughts about the palette. I have done 3 complete looks using this palette, and I've pulled in just a shade or two for a 4th look. I am pretty happy with it. I think that it is beautiful in the pan, and it is unique without being overwhelming. I look at this and I have ideas on what I could do. However, I don't think that all of the formulas are great. I would say that Radioactive is just a mess. I mean, that looks hard panned already, and I have swatched that once. And I mean, you saw me try to get that onto my lid. I don't know that this shade is going to be usable. I am really, really impressed with Harlequin and with Meadow. I have used both of those shades twice, and I was really impressed with how vibrant they stayed up until the end of the day. I think that yesterday I probably wore this for close to 10 hours, and they still looked very bright and very bold at the end of the day. I think they had faded a little bit, but not a whole lot at all. The shades that drew me to this palette were definitely Harlequin, Meadow, which is a matte teal, and then Fern and Juniper. However, a sleeper hit of this palette is Russet, which is this orangey shade. This is such a nice crease color with these blues and greens. It's enough of a contrast that it's visually interesting, but it's not such a bright orange that it's hard to work with or ends up making everything else look really muddy. I'm very happy with that shade. I also ended up really liking Gilded. This is such a pretty shade. I don't know that I have anything super, super similar. It is this really light gold with quite a bit of green in it. While I am really happy with this palette, especially at the $5 price tag, there are some changes that I would like to make. I feel like it would benefit from something a little bit deeper. The darkest shade in the palette is probably Meadow, and I think that this palette would benefit from either a really dark forest green or a navy or a deep teal, something that I could have used along my lash line today to deepen things up just a little bit, and something that could actually add some depth and some dimension to a darker skin tone person's look. Obviously, I would reformulate Radioactive to not be such a dud shade. And then, while I think Galaxy is very pretty, this is a shade that I have over and over again, and I suspect that quite a lot of other people do as well. It is that Baby's First Duochrome shade, like a MAC Blue Brown, or Wet n Wild had one like this in the Comfort Zone palette. It's pretty, it's just not all that unique, and I feel like this palette could have benefited, if it was going to have something like this, from also having something really deep and dark that it could layer over and transform a little bit. And if I were to decide that I really wanted to expand a certain section of my collection, let's say that I decided I really wanted a nice variety of reds, I think that buying another one of these Profusion palettes and getting 10 shades, of which probably 5 or 6 will be pretty good, for $5 may be the way to go for me, rather than picking up 2 or 3 singles at $5 a piece from a ColourPop or a Give Me Glow. So that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this or found it helpful, and if you did, I really hope you'll consider liking and subscribing. I think you might like it here. Thanks again for watching, and I really hope that I will see you next time. Bye!